Back at it again, RIC in the place to be. Rick Saratella here on this September 11th, 2024, a day of remembrance here on the All Access Football Daily Show. And we will begin with September 11th and the events that occurred 24 years ago, because that was my generation's RFK moment. And we welcome you into the show. It's another edition. We got a jam-packed show, but we do want to spend a minute to just reflect on the events of 9/11. And it's a day of infamy, a day we will never forget. Certainly, if you are around my age or older, maybe a little bit younger, you certainly remember where you were at that time. And so here we are on September 11th, 2025. And, I went out to the Jersey Shore, got my workout in, and I had to just let the waves beat me up and pummel me a little bit because I wanted to feel the wrath, the power as I reflected, and the power that we have as a country and as a nation. Because when I look back at 9/11, what stands out to me in the aftermath is the way we came together as a country, the way we united, and the way that everyone just rose to the occasion. And not just first responders, but everyday people like you and I. And then I think back at the tragic event that occurred yesterday, and I think about how far we've come as being united, because whether you liked or disliked Charlie Kirk, the venom, the vitriol, I mean, I just complimented TMZ yesterday. Well, that was short lived. I mean, that was just a disgusting display of a news broadcast where, upon learning about his death, you heard the newsroom in the background chanting and celebrating and hooting and hollering in joy. And I think back to 9/11 and how we were so united. And I think back to here today and how we are so decisive. And this is not a political rant by any means, it's a patriotism rant. And I just want everybody to please take a moment, reflect, think about how we can get back to our roots and back to our foundation. Because, again, whether you liked Charlie Kirk or not, he's like, have we lost our soul as humans? What do you think his two children are feeling this morning when they wake up, if they even slept? This is a husband, a father who never inflicted any kind of violence. And so, just some things to think about here as we get you started. Every now and then we've got to talk about the real world. And I also remember 9/11, how sports was a much needed relief. The Mike Piazza home run. And I don't think the city of New York just felt that. I think the whole world felt that. And hopefully tonight, a little Thursday night football, Washington Commanders, Green Bay Packers. It seems very little relevance in the big picture grand scheme of things, but that's what we'll do here on the All Access Football Show for the next hour of power, is talk about football, be about football. It's all access, all football, all the time. But every now and then we do have to acknowledge the real world happenings and just really try to stay positive. And let's try to deliver some of that. Okay. So what we'll do here is take a quick break, come back, reset, get into it. We got a lot going on today. Eric Edholm from NFL.com will be joining us at 10:40 a.m. Eastern. Of course, we got the big Thursday night football showdown between the Washington Commanders and Green Bay Packers. We'll also get into the Thursday night game, which is a ACC affair between North Carolina State and Wake Forest. I got a couple of prospects for you guys to digest for tonight's game. And we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back right after this, and appreciate you tuning in to the All Access Football Daily. Hey, RIC in a place to be. Rick Saratella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world famous All Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home. If you enter our promo code RIC VIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic. Get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off, rain, sleet, hail, snow. The show must go on. For Rick Saratella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody. Here from the confines of the Jersey Shore, straight into your living room, we welcome you so much for joining us and letting us be a part of your daily activities on the All Access Football Show, live 7 days a week, 10 a.m. Eastern. And we're going to get right into the latest news and notes. We'll start off with the San Francisco 49ers. Man, we talked about it. Nobody was more banged up in week one than the 49ers, who had 17 players on that injury report. Last week, there was concern about whether or not Christian McCaffrey will suit up. Well, we knew yesterday that George Kittle placed on the IR. He'll miss 3 to 5 weeks. But even more of a concern now is Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy, we mentioned, has an injury to his left non-throwing shoulder. He's also nursing a toe injury. Head coach Kyle Shanahan called him a long shot to play this Sunday, and word on the street is he can miss now an extended period of time. So where do the San Francisco's 49ers go from here? Well, we'll have more on that later on the show with Eric Edholm of NFL.com, who will be kind enough to join us at 10:40 a.m. Eastern. But the wheels are already in motion, and San Francisco is going to be looking to bring in a new quarterback. Former first-round pick Mac Jones expected to start this Sunday for the 49ers, and I do believe they are facing the Saints offhand. Double check that, but it's a winnable game despite being down to their backup quarterback, their backup tight end. Now the banged up Christian McCaffrey may have to take on an additional workload. But like I said, the wheels are in motion as to what is next for the 49ers, because yesterday they brought in quarterback Mike White for a workout, of course, out of Western Kentucky. NFL, somewhat of a journeyman. He's played now for 4 NFL organizations: the Cowboys, the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Bears. So he was in for a workout yesterday. Also, they worked out 5 tight ends, obviously lacking depth. Either Luke Farrell or Jake Tonges will get the start on Sunday in the place of George Kittle, but they are going to need a third tight end. And so they worked out 5 of them, including Zach Davidson. All of these guys have some kind of NFL experience. Zach Davidson out of Central Missouri, Peyton Hendershot, who you might remember from the Dallas Cowboys out of Indiana, Nick Muse out of South Carolina, Messiah Swinson, the former Arizona State tight end, and pass catching threat Cole Turner, who came out of Nevada. Not much of a blocker there, but always brought that pass catching prowess, something that George Kittle is one of the best in the entire National Football League when it comes to being a receiving threat at the tight end position. So, man, oh man, oh man, the 49ers, we saw it last year. They could never get off the snide with the injury bug each and every week. And they're banged up at the wide receiver position too. Jawan Jennings is all banged up. They've got wide receivers coming in that they're trying to add. I think they just signed a wide receiver. As a matter of fact, is Born back in the not Born. Sorry here. I don't have that information. My mind is a little bit off today with everything that's going on, but we're doing our best here on this September 11th, 2025. So, all right, San Francisco's got issues, but even bigger issues. We talked about it. It seems like every day we talk about a new dark cloud hovering over the Miami Dolphins. And we mentioned how the mainstream media had been reluctant to touch this Tyreek Hill story. TMZ published the police report, the documents, 8 separate incidents over their 17-month marriage between Keita Vaccaro, the sister of former NFL safety Kenny Vaccaro. And news yesterday I saw on Pro Football Talk that the NFL has opened an investigation into these Tyreek Hill allegations. And so, what will be the next domino that falls in Miami? Will he be dangled as trade bait? Will any team even want to take on that headache? There's been a lot of talk about a potential reunion in Kansas City. I know the Pittsburgh media had been pretty hot to trot on the Steelers acquiring a second receiver, possibly Tyreek Hill. At this stage, I mean, I can't imagine the Cheetah, who's going to be 31, having much trade value. Um, you can probably get him for a bag of chips. It seems like Miami wants to get rid of him, but according to reports, he's going to stay at bay in Miami for the time being. But I'll tell you what, another debacle on Sunday, and nobody needs a win more than the Miami Dolphins. Also coming out of Miami yesterday was Mike McDaniel's press conference stating that Darren Waller, the whole Darren Waller experiment, it might be time to pull the plug. And it sounded like as if Waller just isn't able to go. Of course, they pried him out of retirement after his disastrous tenure with the New York Giants, and he went to go pursue a rap career. And I saw this some of the songs and music he's putting out. It's pretty terrible in my humble opinion. But maybe he saw the need to come back to the NFL. But then, really, like, if you're already retired, right? Is your heart really into it? Does Darren Waller wake up in the morning looking to put in that work? I don't think so. And so Miami really had no plan at the tight end position coming into the season. So they've got holes all over the place. They were the second most banged up team in week 1. They had 14 players on the injury report. We saw the lack of depth in that blowout loss against the Indianapolis Colts. And I'm starting to think Mikey McDaniel might be on his way out the door. Could John Gruden be eyeing that job? We talked about that on yesterday's show. Florida Gators have LSU this week, and down in Gainesville, they are calling for John Gruden. So you could have two teams in the state of Florida battling for the rights to John Gruden because I believe he wants back in the NFL. What would happen if the Florida Gators job became available? And if LSU blows the hinges off the door against the Gators, could could Florida look to make a move there? Because they'll be 0-3, I think, right? So just a couple of storylines worth monitoring there. Okay. Also, a couple days ago, I didn't mention it on this show. I did mention it on the Sports Rage show, which we produce that every Tuesday. Check out my guy Gabriel Morency on Twitter at Sports Rage. We do a show each and every Tuesday. We've been doing it for the last 4 years. I did mention it on that show. The Steelers' acquisition of Jabril Peppers, who was cut by the New England Patriots. Mike Vrabel saying it didn't fit into the scheme. New England looking for more traditional safeties. Of course, Peppers is a more versatile safety. He's like a jackknife, right? He can line up in the slot. He can line up at safety. He could even line up at linebacker. Back in college, he played a little offense. So Jabril Peppers brings a lot of versatility, a lot of experience, and we've talked about it. Like the Steelers are all in. These Pittsburgh Steelers, from Aaron Rodgers to DK Metcalf to Jalen Ramsey and all the pieces they added. And Rodgers, man, we talked about it on Monday's show. The lethal off of that play action, all 4 touchdown passes coming off of play action. He worked it beautifully. And boy, oh boy, could you imagine if they really did add a second wide receiver option alongside DK Metcalf? And Mike Tomlin's been no stranger to take on strong personalities. Like Tyreek Hill, he could actually be a fit for Pittsburgh if they want to take on the PR hit, right? Because we don't know what's to come from this new investigation with the latest allegations. And so Kansas City, we know Andy Reid can handle it. We know Mike Tomlin can handle it. But I do think if Tyreek Hill is traded, it needs to be with one of those established, no-nonsense head coaches. It needs to be on a veteran team that has leadership. And if Tyreek Hill got dealt to the Pittsburgh Steelers or Kansas City Chiefs, he would need to just kind of fall in line, right? And that's just the way it goes, all right? But I did see Jabril Peppers signing with the Steelers, giving them another defensive weapon. Highsmith and Watt on the edges. This is a stacked, loaded, talented roster. And we'll see what happens with Jabril Peppers in Pittsburgh. Now, we've got a visit in Dallas because they traded away Micah Parsons. And guess who was in the big D to pay Jerry Jones a little visit? How about Jadeveon Clowney? Hey, remember me? Here's a guy, I got to give him credit because he's got like 9 lives. Every year he finds a way to skip out on NFL training camp. He's like, yo, guys, I'm here. If you want me, let me know. Maybe I'll wait around, hang out a little bit. But this guy has managed to avoid off-season workouts and training camp, it feels like, for at least the past 5 seasons. And listen, if you're looking for a 1-year rental, because that's exactly what Jadeveon Clowney has been, he's got a little gas left in the tank. He does. He might be limited to 20 or 25 reps a game, but you're really just looking for him to come in and be a situational pass rusher, which, let's be frank, the Dallas Cowboys could certainly use a little bit of a boost after losing DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons. That pass rush unit now for Dallas, it was non-existent against the Eagles. So could Jadeveon Clowney be on the way? No word as if he actually departed Dallas or if a contract offer has been made, but we will continue to monitor that situation as well. Okay. When we come back, we're going to get into the Thursday night affair. We've got Commanders at Packers. We've also got a little ACC action between North Carolina State and Wake Forest. I got two really good looking prospects to put on your radar for tonight's game. If you're going to watch that, that's at 7:30, kicks off right before the Thursday night football game. So we'll get into the two Thursday night football affairs. Of course, we got Eric Edholm coming up at 10:40 a.m. Eastern. Big shout out to all of our guests throughout the week. And we'll be back right after this quick commercial break. So we appreciate the love and support. Buckle up. Don't go anywhere. Hey, RIC in a place to be. Rick Saratella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world famous All Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home. If you enter our promo code RICVIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic, get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off, rain, sleet, hail, snow. The show must go on. For Rick Saratella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody. All right, back at it again. RIC in the place to be. Rick Saratella, telling it like it is when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin here on the All Access Football Daily Show, live 7 days a week, 10 a.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for finding us. And while you're here, if you don't mind smashing that like button, give it a share, maybe subscribe so you get the new show alerts. We're growing each and every single day here due to your support, and we greatly appreciate that. One thing we haven't been able to do is catch the chat room yet on fire. Like, let's light it up. Let's get some feedback, some interaction. Let us know what part of the country you're watching from. I see we got people all over the place from Bangladesh, our good friends up north in Canada, of course, the United States of America here on this September 11th, 2025. Got into some news and notes from around the league in the A block. Coming up at 10:40 a.m. Eastern in about 15 minutes, we'll have Eric Edholm from NFL.com getting more into the Thursday night football, what the 49ers could do down Brock Purdy and George Kittle. Also, he's up there in Chicago, so we'll get his read on the Caleb Williams situation, somebody who I think is on a short leash and could be benched for Tyson Bagent in the near future. So we'll ask him about that. All right. And tonight, Thursday night football, the Washington Commanders 1-0, fresh off their 21-6 victory over the New York Giants in week 1. They will visit Lambeau Field, where the Packers had an impressive week 1 victory, dominating the Detroit Lions 27-13. The referee here is going to be Brad Rogers. The all-time series is at 20-16. Green Bay actually leads it, with the home team winning 10 of the past 11 matchups between these two organizations. So that's an interesting note. The home team coming out on top in 10 of the previous 11 matchups. All right. Some things to keep a lookout for, on yesterday's world famous All Access Football report that was published yesterday on allaccessfootball.com. I highlighted Ja'Cory Krosky-Moret, also known as Bill. And to me, we actually dubbed him back in April prior to the draft the best kept secret of the NFL draft, because if you don't know his backstory, his last season there at Arizona, he had an eligibility issue stemming back from his first year at Alabama State way back in 2019. So he actually played the first game of the regular season, and the NCAA stepped in and said, "Hey, not so fast, my friend. You're out of eligibility." So he had to sit out his entire final college season, and really didn't get in front of NFL scouts until the Hula Bowl, which is when he popped onto my radar. And the Hula Bowl, maybe not as prestigious as the Senior Bowl or East West Shrine Bowl, but it's still, littered with day 3 and high priority free agent type of players that go on to make NFL rosters. And Ja'Cory Krosky-Moret was just running circles around them in the practices and the games. Clearly, he was at a different level than the other players in attendance. And shout out to the East West Shrine Bowl, who I thought, I've never seen this before, as somebody who has been involved with the All-Star game circuit hands-on for the past 10 years or so. I had never seen uh, an opposing all-star game, Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl, they're all Hula Bowl, they're all in competition really when it's all said and done. But I had never seen an all-star game send a scout to another all-star game just to make sure they're not missing anybody. And I give the East West Shrine Bowl a lot of credit for doing that, because I forget the scout. It might have been Dave Rogers. I can't recall who it was out there, but they saw something in Ja'Cory Krosky-Moret as well. They called him up to the East West Shrine Bowl, where he continued to light it up in practice and went on to win the MVP of the East West Shrine Bowl game. If you watched it on NFL Network, he had a couple of big runs there. Yet, it all goes back to the film. And if NFL scouts don't have that, there is some skepticism, right? And despite all the scouts, I mean, you had general managers in attendance, you had very high ranked executives, NFL decision makers, all saw what Bill did throughout 2 weeks of all-star game practices. Yet nobody had the cajoons or balls to stand on the table and draft this young man until the Washington Commanders in the 7th round, with the 246th overall selection, pulled the trigger. And it just goes to show you, man, you can light it up. You can impress. And sometimes NFL scouts just don't feel the confidence or courage to put their name on your reputation. And that's how the evaluation game goes. And so we slapped a 4th round grade on him, which I felt was very conservative. And here is something I'm guilty of, because I couldn't find any love for Ja'Cory Krosky-Moret. I was on an island, it felt like, pounding the table for this young man. And if you follow us over at allaccessfootball.com, I wrote him up several times. I thought it was conservative to put a 4th round grade on him, but I also try to be reflective of the pulse of the scouting community. And so moving forward, it just goes to show you got to have blinders on. You've got to block out the outside noise. And I tell this to anyone who wants to be a scout or an evaluator, like, just trust your instincts, go with your gut, do what you think is right. And listen, all of us, if you look at the track record of the NFL draft, we're all going to be wrong more than we're right. But hey, if you can bat 500, 300, you're doing pretty good. If you can bat 500, you're doing great. I saw the Giants draft classes, the class of 2023, the entire draft class. That's just 2 years ago. Not one of them is even on the team anymore. And that was Joe Shane's decisions. Their 2022 and 2021 draft classes weren't much better, yet he still has a job. So, I mean, it just goes to show like it's a tough business evaluating these players, and that's what we do year round over at allaccessfootball.com. So buckle up. We've got the draft watch going on over there, but let's stick to the Thursday night football game. And Ja'Cory Merritt, I think, is going to have an increased workload. They're going to unveil him even more. Of course, Terry McLaurin, who missed all of training camp with this hold in, he's still working his legs and getting into game shape. Deebo Samuel was a big time problem for the Giants. They had no game plan for him whatsoever a week ago. He had 7 catches and 96 scrimmage yards. You saw him on some end arounds in the backfield doing what Deebo does. And so I expect some more of that. Of course, they've got veteran guys on this roster all over the place, like Austin Eckler and Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu, one of the more underrated linebackers in the NFL. Dorrance Armstrong, he's a nice little role player as well on the defensive line. We talked about the interior. Daron Payne, 2 sacks a week ago. Jonathan Allen, 6 pressures each. Jordan Love is going to be under duress in this matchup. That Commanders defensive line is going to be coming at him. And he played very efficient last week. No interceptions, 2 touchdown passes. Jordan Love now is really in a position to put the Packers in a good spot, right? If they get off to a 2-0 start with wins over the Lions and Commanders, that could carry weight into the playoff hunt and possibly even into the home field advantage. I totally expect the Commanders and Lions to be very, very good in contention for their division and competing for a home field advantage spot. So these games early on do have ramifications that we'll find out about later on in the season. Now, I did see, who was it? Christian Watson, I think, got extended by the Green Bay Packers this week. So they've got this young wide receiver nucleus with Watson and Watkins and Jaden Reed and Romeo Dubes. They got the 12 personnel package with Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave at the tight end position. And of course, Micah Parsons, 29 reps last week, had a sack, 3 pressures. I expect him to play even more reps this week. Of course, he'll probably have to undergo another cortisone shot. But when you throw Parsons and Rashawn Gary at Jaden Daniels, that means he's going to be running. And Edgerrin Cooper, the linebacker, may have to shadow Jaden Daniels here in week 2. Of course, he had 12 tackles in week 1. And Xavier McKinney on the back end, I think if he didn't lead the league in interceptions last year, he was damn near close. I think he had about 8 of them at last check. So that's a little bit of a preview there with the Commanders and the Packers. That's going to be Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, and Kaylee Hartung as the field reporter. That'll be tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. All right. We also have Thursday night football on the college docket. All right. Little ACC action. I posted the Florida State Seminoles NFL Draft Watch this morning, courtesy of Ryan Paglia, a scout here for the NFL Draft Bible. If you want to learn more about the top Florida State Seminoles prospects, we posted that this morning, led by the really good-looking big defensive tackle there in Darrell Jackson, who right now we have a day 2 grade on as a top 50 prospect for next year's 2026 NFL Draft. But I'll tell you what, Florida is moving, they're grooving, and they're back in the rankings. So Darrell Jackson very well could wind up in the first round conversation should the Seminoles continue to trend in that direction. They only had 2 draft picks, I think, last year, but they had 10 the year before, with Jared Verse going in the first round. They had Fisk, Keon Coleman, I think, a lot of good players coming out of that Florida State program. And you look at NIL and what it can do from one year to the next. I mean, this was a bottom of the barrel team last year. This year, they're back in the rankings. That's what the modern college football landscape looks like. And so, keeping it in the ACC tonight, we've got North Carolina State visiting Wake Forest. All right. And a couple of guys to keep a name on for this one. Justin Jolly from North Carolina State comes in at 6'3", 251-pound tight end. We've got him guesstimated in the low 4.7 range. Now, Jolly is an explosive playmaking tight end, a really big time pass catcher. In fact, when I covered the UConn Huskies for UConn Illustrated several years ago, Justin Jolly was there as a part of that UConn program. And man, I had him circled in my program as a guy to keep an eye on for the future watch. Now, UConn struggles to keep good players there for more than one season because NIL, a bigger program comes in and usually steals their players. And just go ask Bill Belichick with Tyler Yates, the defensive end he plucked out of there. That really ticked off head coach Jim Mora. But that's just the byproduct of the UConn program. They've got a talented wide receiver in Skylar Bell who should get drafted this year. But on the Wake Forest side, Desmond Claiborne, very highly rated by NFL scouts at 5'8" and 5/8 inches, 200 pounds. We have him right in that 4.50 range, and he had a big week after a poor week one performance. He bounced back last week. I think he had 110 yards rushing. And North Carolina State is actually favored in this matchup by 7.5 points. I think Wake Forest at home could actually possibly win this game outright. So I guess I'm putting the Wolfpack on upset alert. And the ESPN matchup, that one's going to be tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern over on ESPN. So a couple of good-looking prospects for you to watch in that North Carolina State and Wake Forest matchup. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to reset with our guy, Eric Edholm from NFL.com. We'll get more on what he's hearing with the current San Francisco 49ers situation. We'll talk more about this Thursday night football matchup between the Commanders and Packers. So buckle up and don't go anywhere. We'll be back.
Hey, RIC in a place to be. Rick Saratella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world famous All Access Football. And you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home. If you enter our promo code RIC VIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic. Get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off, rain, sleet, hail, snow. The show must go on. For Rick Saratella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody.
You're watching All Access Football.
All right, we're back at it again. All right, seeing a place to be. Rick Saratella here on this Thursday, September 11th, 2025. It's the All Access Football Daily Show. We're live each and every day, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 days a week, no days off. And our next guest also takes no days off. In fact, he's got over 2 decades of covering the NFL and NFL draft. You may remember him from the Sporting News, Pro Football Weekly, of course, Yahoo Sports. Now doing Big Willie things over at NFL.com for the NFL and NFL draft. Of course, a native of Boston, now living in the Chicago area. He joins us right now. One of my favorite people to chop it up and talk football with. He is Eric Edholm, and we thank him so much for taking some time to join us. What's happening, Eric?
Not much, man. That was about the best intro I've ever gotten, I think. You had my bio down to grade school there. I was impressed. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, we've kind of come up together in this business, right? And it's been a lot of fun when we can rise together through the ranks, and we enjoy all the work that you do. And I believe you're one of the few people behind the scenes who do the great game previews and the post-game recaps, what we learned. And we're going to talk about what we're going to learn, or 3 key matchups I think you did for the Commanders and Packers. But since you are in Chicago, let's start it off right there, because I don't know if you saw the report from Tyler Dunne that was circulating about Caleb Williams possibly having a learning disability the Bears didn't know about during the draft process. But I saw Ben Johnson challenge Caleb Williams early on in the training camp, and he runs a complex system.
Yep.
And Caleb, he just seems to always want to improvise, and if he's there in the pocket, he doesn't look comfortable, but he's got to get on the move, on the run, almost like a playmaking point guard. What's your read on the quarterback situation? They extended Tyson Bagent, who's looked so impressive, right? What's your read on the whole Chicago Bears in this quarterback situation?
Yeah, I think if we're being fair, we need to give this at least half a season to see how this works out. Now, that said, it's hard not to look at this right now and wonder if Ben Johnson truly believes Caleb Williams is the guy. He might, and we can only take him at his word, right? And he's been tough on him. He's been critical. You pointed out, Ben wanted to set a tone early in camp. Details. Let's get these things down. A 2-yard split is a 2-yard split, not a yard and a half, not 3 yards. It's, our timing is important. You saw how bad that element of the Bears offense was too, the false starts and the other penalties and, pre-snap procedural stuff. Like, that's the kind of thing that will hold an offense back, independent of Caleb. That said, as the game went on, you saw him go from very good on that first drive to maybe acceptable play in the middle to let's not do that. Let's not overthrow guys who are running free. Let's not try to up the degree of difficulty, to your point of, the style points always seem to be in play with him. And he can make a lot of amazing plays. Like, we saw that throw to Rome Odunze on the first drive. Like, come on, that's big time. But there's not enough of the let's check out of the bad plays and get into a 2-yard run. That isn't going to be a loss. And his pocket movement was better in week 1. I thought, boy, he escaped a couple sacks early and really did a good job of that. And I have to also point out, boy, I was thoroughly underwhelmed with the interior trio on the offensive line. The 3 guys they went out and spent on this year. And I thought, geez, that's got to get better. So a lot going on right now. And I'm not going to deny that there isn't some Caleb concern or angst or whatever, but I think we still need to give it another 7 or 8 games before we're putting a stamp on whether this is going to work or not.
Yeah, it's definitely a storyline worth monitoring in Chicago.
Yes.
And I think the most frustrating thing is, to your point, he makes these electrifying flash plays, and you hear arm talent mostly associated with Caleb Williams, and then he makes some other plays that aren't so great. But to your point, that offensive line, they put a lot of equity into rebuilding the offensive line unit. You mentioned the 3 interior guys. I think Dahmen, Jonah Jackson, and Thuney. Yeah, and they all allowed at least 4 pressures. I mean, you can't be soft up the middle of your offensive line either. So that's going to be a troubling point moving forward there for the Chicago Bears. Now, another team suddenly with the quarterback concern is the San Francisco 49ers. And Monday came by, Tuesday rolled around, and it was like, hey, he's got a shoulder injury, but it's his non-throwing shoulder. Hey, he's got a toe injury. And then all of a sudden yesterday, we hear that he's going to join possibly George Kittle now on the shelf. We know Kittle's going to be out for an extended period of time, and we can talk about that. But they did bring in Mike White for a workout, which tends to lead me to believe Purdy here could miss significant time.
Yeah, it sounds like the window for him could be 2 weeks, could be 5, and you look at their schedule. Yeah, I mean, New Orleans isn't the most threatening thing in the world this weekend. I believe they've got 2 or 3 divisional games coming up in that next chunk of games. They've got the Bucks in there too, an improved Jags team. So this is no easy stretch considering what they're potentially missing here, right? You mentioned Kittle. Jennings is banged up, Williams, and now Purdy is the big one. And Mac Jones, I guess he'd be excited about going against the Jags. I don't know. Hadn't thought about that one yet until you brought it up. But, they got to get through this game first. And it was interesting. I mean, obviously the Mac Jones, Kyle Shanahan thing has an interesting draft angle to it, as you know. I was one of those people who was told by somebody who would know, or I thought would know, that this was Shanahan's guy. Like in the draft, they loved him. And come draft time, all of a sudden, Trey Lance is the pick. Now, I had never really kind of gotten to the total bottom of that thing. And I know there's a lot of tentacles to it, but I think Kyle was very interested in Mac. Whether that means he can go out and perform functionally with a banged up offense is another question altogether. We know his history. It's been very mixed at best. So I don't know. What were your thoughts on Mac coming out? I mean, I was obviously conflicted about him, but hearing enough positive things from like decent football people, like you felt like there were enough suitors out there that maybe there was something to work with there.
Yeah, well, I mean, hindsight's 2020, so I think they were both misses in terms of being first round talents. But I do think a lot of times that has to do with coaching. In terms of Mac, he was extremely accurate and efficient, especially in that short intermediate game. I wasn't in love with the arm strength. I thought the arm strength was probably the hindrance there. But I'm with you. Like I heard some talk that 49ers were interested, and we'll see. Like Shanahan was, he was considered a quarterback whisperer before the Sean McVays and the Kevin O'Connells of the world. So, like, I think Shanahan will implement an efficient short-term scheme, but I wonder, like, if he doesn't like what he sees out of Mac Jones, will they explore somebody like a Kirk Cousins?
I mean, Kirk has been you can't call him the white whale, right? I mean, it's like he's had opportunities to go get him if he wanted him, but he's always been that kind of, break glass in case of emergency option. It is there, right? And the Falcons seem to be banking on some team losing their quarterback either in training camp, preseason, or early in the season, with the idea of hanging on to him and taking that anchor of a salary with it, and then eventually they can offload him if they need to. Look, I don't know if that'll work out, but it's certainly a possibility. And I mean, you've seen these situations where a quarterback, or anybody for that matter, gets an injury prognosis that's a little unclear, or multiple injuries, and we get one timetable, and then it's slightly adjusted, and it can linger a little bit. So, I don't know the degree of medical concern right now, but it feels a little murky to me, which would maybe open the possibility for an outside quarterback, whether it's a guy like White, or the more not permanent, but the more significant move with a guy like Cousins.
Yeah, I think Cousins at least adds a perception of more stability, but we'll see.
It warrants discussion anyway, right? I mean, you got to at least have that conversation, I would think.
I think you do have to have that conversation, because this was a team that was bit by the injury bug all last season. They had 17 guys on the injury report show up in week 1. McCaffrey's banged up. Jawan Jennings is banged up. I mean, where does it ever end for the San Francisco 49ers? All right, 2 teams they'll be chasing in the NFC hunt. Tonight, Thursday Night Football, Washington Commanders at Green Bay Packers. Both teams coming off an impressive week 1 victory. And I noticed you had 3 key storylines to watch in this matchup over at NFL.com. Enlighten us.
Yeah, no, I think obviously, people are still fascinated and enraptured by the idea of Parsons in Green Bay. Anytime there's a big trade like this, naturally, we can't forget that he played 29 snaps in the opener, which Matt LaFleur said was more than they expect. He almost sounded like it was like double the more. I mean, not just like, well, we wanted to keep him under.
He talked himself into more playing time. I think he said.
He said what?
Parsons actually talked himself into playing more. They were actually going to
exactly. Come on, let me out there, right? I mean, you love that, but now you got to turn around, 72 hours later or whatever, and get ready for this game. And he's still on the injury report. He's got the back. It's going to be kind of a week-to-week thing. You remember Khalil Mack missed a couple games in that 2018 season, right? The parallels are fascinating to me. But yeah, this is going to be another case of how much can he go, and how much can they use him? Parsons has a great history against the Commanders and against Daniels. He had 4.5 sacks against them last year. So, that approach Green Bay has taken in the past, some of those athletic quarterbacks where they mush rush and they kind of, keep them in the pocket and try to make those players operate like Jalen Hurts and such. Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't. I'll be fascinated to see if that is altered at all. If Parsons is able to go, but it's a big game for Jordan Love too. I mean, just week one was really good for the most part. He did have that shaky series where he threw a dropped pick and then a pick that was called back by penalty. So, I still think if Green Bay wants to fancy itself a Super Bowl team, Jordan Love has got to be a Super Bowl quarterback or at least relatively close to that. And, sort of a less amplified version of what we were talking about with Caleb, where there's stretches of brilliance and really solid play. And then there are stretches where he just seems to kind of get swallowed up by the moment almost. So, maybe that's a little unfair to him, but I've always kind of had a soft spot for Jordan Love and feel like there's still a world in which he can become an upper echelon quarterback, and they paid him like one. So, this is going to be the stretch where I think his legacy starts to get defined. And the other question would be, I guess, how good is that Washington defense coming off a 6-point performance against the Giants? Was that, the opponent predicated? Like, was that, how well are they going to perform against a strong run game and depth at receiver and an athletic quarterback? That's my question.
Yeah, and I mean, we really don't have a lot to go off of except for
right.
week one. And Green Bay beat up a pretty good team in Detroit. And Washington beat up, I think, a pretty talent deficient team in the New York Giants.
Yeah.
So, and also I do think like there is something to that Micah Parsons momentum. It just feels like there's a new sense of energy.
Oh, yeah.
And I noticed also like in this matchup between the Commanders and Packers, 10 of the 11 games have been won by the home team. Green Bay is the home team in this matchup. Are you allowed to give us a prediction here?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember what I picked. I think I picked Green Bay by a field goal. I think it's obviously I'm still in that mode where I think Thursday games, the home team has a pretty significant advantage more than a Sunday home game. But I've been beaten up a little bit by Commanders fans. I feel like they've turned on me a little bit. I did get slightly out in front of the bandwagon last year. I remember one of the beat writers, I had him, I think 25th in my initial power rankings, and he's like, this is the highest I've seen him, preseason. And of course, 2 months later, they were the darlings of the league. I'm just not quite there with them as a elite team yet, but who's to say that a month from now I can't change my mind? I just feel like I would side towards Green Bay in this one slightly.
Fair enough. And looking at my notes here, I have the Packers 27-24. So
I like it. That's about what I had. I think 24-21 or something like that. I can't remember exactly.
But we've gotten some good ones here in prime time during that week one. Every prime time game treated us to a nice delight. I think this will be another close game.
Yep. I think so too. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, again, it's just not about those stars. There's other players, but there's some heavyweights in this one.
All right, real quick on your way out the door here now. Philadelphia at Kansas City highlights the Sunday docket. That's a Super Bowl rematch, obviously. I'm just curious how you see that game turning out, and also who is the team or teams to beat early on here in your power rankings?
Yeah, no, I think the the Chiefs are obviously well aware of what's staring them in the face. The team that went up 34-0 in the Super Bowl is the team that's trying to give them an 0-2 record after a 15-win season, and they're just not in this place very often. And so I think there will be that Chiefs sense of pride, which is like, hey, we are not this team, and how much can Mahomes and Kelsey and all those inspirational leaders they have, Nick Bolton, Chris Jones, whoever, will them to victory when they are, let's face it, shorthanded at receiver. It's funny we talk about this being a passing era, but what do the top offenses all have in common? Like Bills have James Cook, Derrick Henry with the Ravens. You see Chase Brown as an explosive player in Cincinnati, whatever. I mean, just name off. They all have an explosive playmaking back. The Chiefs, I don't think, have that right now. And I don't know if that's their biggest weakness, but it doesn't get talked about a lot. Their run game is almost nil. So they've got some issues. And I think defensively, they were a step late and a dollar short against the Chargers. So a lot going on there. And what was the second part of the question again? I forgot.
Well, just are the Eagles and the Chiefs the teams to beat, or do you see other contenders atop your power rankings early on?
Yeah, I mean, if CeeDee Lamb catches 2 of those last 3 balls, I don't know the Eagles win week 1. I mean, there's still a little bit of question about them. I remember how they started last year. It was a little uneven. Really, that Tampa Bay game in the bye week kind of propelled them to where they ended up getting. So, you never look at the Rams. They've started slowly 2 years in a row, and they've been a horrifically scary team in the playoffs each year. So the first month of the season can be a pseudo preseason for some teams. And I think the teams that are thinking January, like Buffalo's defense and Philly with some stuff in Kansas City, they're not going to sweat these things too much. But at the same time, you have to understand that you put yourself in too big a hole, and it's going to be a big climb.
Yeah, and I thought that Bills and Ravens might be a preview of the AFC Championship come January. That was a way to open up the season with a banger, and we got a good one tonight with a banger. And
yeah,
I know you've got some bangers coming up over at NFL.com. I see you got the show with our Jersey brethren, Mike Yam, again, doing the power ranking show. Tell the listening audience where they can find it. What else you got coming up on tap over at NFL.com?
Yeah, it's my second year doing it with Mike, the Power Rankings podcast, third year doing it overall. I've had a blast. I love every Tuesday we tape. I mean, Mike's such a great dude. I'm sure you've talked to him, and like one of the genuinely nicest people you'll meet. A long-suffering Giants fan who's ready for some Super Bowls again, But we have fun every week. I think, how is Mike going to react to my Giants ranking? That's my big. But we have great chemistry. We enjoy doing the show, and give us your feedback. Like, I'm not afraid of. I love hearing people say you're an idiot. Well, I don't know if I love it. I respect it. I give you your time. I give you the microphone. I let you have your say. It's okay. I'm wrong sometimes. It's good.
Well, we do have a lot of Giants listeners being based in New Jersey, so I'm just curious, where are the Giants on your power ranking?
Boy, wasn't the preseason exciting, right? I mean, everyone got excited. I was one of them. I thought, well, this is the future of the Giants. You could see Abdul Carter's potential impact. Can we please not have him spy quarterbacks? Like, get him rushing the passer. That's just my little gripe. I mean, he's special. He could do some Micah-like things, and those other 2 rushers too. I mean, Burns. A healthy Burns is great. Thibodeau, whatever. There's pieces in place with Neighbors, and I think Dart is an intriguing option. I wasn't the biggest fan of him coming out, but I'm willing to give him, time to marinate and everything. But do they have to force him in there? Do they feel like that's the cure all? I don't know. They're a fascinating team, but I'm with that schedule, I'm having a hard time seeing the instant, improvement there.
Yeah, that's the toughest strength of schedule on paper anyway, and we're definitely
brutal
monitoring. Yeah,
for a head coach and a GM who are like clawing onto their jobs right now. That's the backdrop of the whole thing.
Yeah, I just mentioned the whole 2023 draft class from 2 years ago is completely gone off the roster entirely. So we'll see if who survives here in the Meadowlands. But Eric, we know you're a busy man. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure we'll chop it up at some point throughout the year, and make sure you check them out. NFL.com. Keeping you locked and loaded during the regular season on all your NFL information, and then also on top of all the NFL draft news. So we look forward to it, Eric.
You're the best, Rick. Enjoyed talking to you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, man. There he is, Eric Edholm, NFL.com, longtime guest on the show. If you remember us from the State of Football, the Football Playbook, NFL Draft Bible Radio, then you are familiar with Eric Edholm. And like I said, over 2 decades covering the NFL and NFL Draft from the Sporting News, Pro Football Weekly, Yahoo Sports, and hanging out there in Chicago. So we always appreciate the time. And tomorrow we have Austin Brooks is going to be joining us, the film guy. If you're watching on YouTube, check out the film guy YouTube page. Austin has been lighting it up with player breakdowns, analysis. Of course, he is formerly of Sports Illustrated covering the Georgia Bulldogs. So we're going to get a real 4-1-1 on the Georgia Bulldogs. We'll give you a little primer of that Georgia Bulldog and Tennessee Volunteers matchup on Saturday. That's going to be tomorrow's show right here on Friday. A bunch of college football games on the docket. We'll try to give you some prospects that you need to know for those matchups. Of course, Saturday is our college football pregame show with longtime scout Russ Landy, who's been involved with the UCLA Bruins. He spent time as a scout with the Saints, the Rams, the XFL, the CFL. So Russ joins me every Saturday right here on the All Access Football Daily Show on Saturday mornings for our NFL Draft Slant. We take a look at the marquee matchups, key prospects, matchups to watch, player matchups. So make sure you tune in for that. And then Sunday, okay, I gave you my pick here for today. We were 11-5 against the spread in week number 1. So the line is 3.5. I like the Packers to win by 3, so I'm going to take the 3.5. I'll take the Commanders tonight. I'll take the Packers to win outright. We saw a lot of close games, as our good friend Howard Balzer alluded to on yesterday's show, and we had a double dip of interviews. We are now isolating the interviews on the All Access Football YouTube channel, so if you missed anything from Howard Balzer or Craig Haley yesterday, Haley came on, talked about the FCS small school prospects on the radar for the 2026 NFL Draft. We also have Emory Hunt's interview from Tuesday's edition isolated as well, and we went around the football universe with NFL, CFL, European League of Football talk. Emory Hunt, we got a lot in this week with our guests, and like I said, we've got more coming at you. It's our second week of programming. This was our 11th episode here on September 11th, 2025. We thank you all so much for tuning in. I see we got some Giants interaction with our guy, Dave Del Cole, good friend of the show. Of course, he does the Scout Honor podcast, usually starts up during draft season. He joined us for all of our draft coverage and post-draft analysis last year. So we're looking forward to having Dave Del Cole on the show here at some point. I'll have to hit him up. And don't worry, Dave, I'm holding it down here at the Jersey Shore for you. I know you were down here this summer and our hectic schedules didn't allow for us to connect, but I'm holding it down. I just jumped out of the ocean right before the show, as a matter of fact. So keeping it locked, keeping you up to date. It's your home for real football talk and everything Pigskin. All right. And we'll be back at it again tomorrow, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 days a week. Appreciate the love and support. If you could do us a favor, smash that like button on the way out the door, share, subscribe for new show alerts. We appreciate all the love and support. Buckle up, everybody.
Hey, RIC and a place to be. Rick Saratella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world famous All Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything Pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home if you enter our promo code RIC VIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic. Get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off. Rain, sleet, hail, snow, the show must go on. For Rick Saratella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody.